One of the people who had the most influence on me was my special teacher and the head of the music education department in the Jerusalem Academy, Batia Strauss. Batia was born in Germany and in 1930 immigrated with her parents and brother Yitzchak to Pardes Chana. She started her musical career at the age of 16 as a pianist. After studying in Israel with the best teachers, including Frank Peleg in Tel Aviv and Friedman in Jerusalem, she went to Paris in 1947 and studied there for 3 years at the École Normale de Musique with the pianist and conductor Alfred Cortot. When she returned to Israel, she immediately began teaching music in Pardes Chana and in the kibbutzim and Shemer, Mishmeret, and Ma'anit. She founded high-quality children's and adult choirs. Some of them were recorded for the Radio Voice of Israel. Among her students were the singers Meir Ariel and Shalom Chanoch. In the mid-60s, she was the musical instructor of the Shemer Sisters Quartet, who sang songs of her good friend Naomi Shemer. From the first moment, we had an influential relationship. She was a performer, understood well the substance of music, and I was so impressed with her special way to introduce and approach others who had no interest in it. I remember very well one of the sample lessons I watched at the Arlozorov School in Jerusalem. David entered the class, a clumsy boy with a soccer ball between his legs, resisting everything and waiting for the savior bell to release him out of class. At the end of the lesson, David was dancing Tchaikovsky's Waltz of the Flowers with her in the role of Narcissus. It was a miracle. But she was not alone. The European soul rested upon in their house in Pardes Chana, also thanks to her husband, Martin. Later, we became friends with him and would visit them on the weekend with our children, drinking wine from dark glasses and walking among the fruit trees in their orchard. Since there was no method for experimental listening to music, Batia developed a special method. Over the years, this has been called active listening. She chose pieces from various music styles and found in them a prominent feature, such as a melody that invites you to join in, or a rhythm, or a repeating harmonic pattern. She isolated the main element of the piece before listening and made the children participate while listening by moving, drawing, singing, accompanying by percussion instruments, or dancing while identifying the musical element. Starting in the 1980s, every year she conducted several workshops all over Europe dealing with active listening. She taught at the Orff Institute in Salzburg, in Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Portugal, and Spain, and even in Argentina. In February 1997, Batia was killed in a car accident. If you ask me what my culture stages are, I will immediately say Batia and Martin. A European woman with a different fragrance and rich knowledge, who I could shelter under her wings, draw from her vast output, and learn from her about music and children, and what is hidden in the black box in the brain. When Batia and I would collect pecans in her garden yard in Pardes Chana, I would learn those things in about life by the way. The bookshelves in the wooden house were loaded with books in German, French, Latin, and English. Martin Strauss was a Renaissance man. Each of them spoke, read, and wrote 6 languages. There are no such people today. We had deep conversations about music, politics, and aesthetics. It was an extraordinary culture experience. They built a room in a separate wing of their house to host their close friend, the poet and songwriter Naomi Shemer. They were complete atheists, so they wrote the letter N on the mezuzah for Naomi. And Shemer dedicated to Batia and Martin her song Pardes Chana B'Shabbat. Every July 2nd, Batia's birthday, until Naomi's Shemer's death in 2004, her close friends and I among them, would gather at Naomi Shemer's house in Ramat Aviv. Naomi would open the meeting by playing the prelude in F sharp minor from the second volume of Bach's well-tempered clavier, and with the descending fourth interval, she would sing Batia, and all Batia's colleagues would recount the adventures of the funny mademoiselle, the supreme musician who came from Paris Conservatoire and was adored by the sassy children of Israel and ruled the hooligans from the kibbutzim, the moshavim, Jerusalem, and Tel Aviv. Martin told me that the quote she taught that was inscribed on her grave was taken from Bertolt Brecht's book, The Exile of the Poets. Batia was an observant, listening and thinking woman, critical and reflective, and it was important for her that others will know how to listen to music. It's hard to teach others to listen. It's not just targeting them. She was very funny, although her face was serious without any smile. And then, when everyone would roll around laughing, she would wonder if her story was funny at all. She never understood how children are able to come to school every day and also stay there from 8 to 1. They're terribly miserable, she said to me, because it's boring to see the teacher behind when she writes on the board. You don't see the of somebody for 5 hours, she explained. When she was teaching children, she had such big ideas that even in the far Katamon, you wouldn't hear a pin drop on the floor. A kind of silence of astonishment and interest together. My relationship with Batia is a benchmark for the level of influence that one teacher has on one student. I strongly believe that a person is the sum of the teachers he had in his life. I continue to try and commemorate her in several ways. I edited a wonderful book, The Instrument of the Orchestra. Methodology of Music Teaching is a course at the Ilan University inspired by her. And I also dedicated a chapter to her in my joint book with Dor Schwartz, Music, Israeliness, Judaism, and Us. It is amazing to discover that after so many years, her ideas are still original, innovative, and serve as a template for a deep understanding of musical structures. I think she outlined the basis for contemporary musical education in Israel and in general.